Ohai. Zhitomir. The city in the north of Ukraine, the administrative center of the Zhitomir region and the Zhitomir district, the center of the Zhitomir agglomeration. Till 2020 was the city of regional subordination. Is divided into Begunsky and royal areas. History. The settlement has arisen in the second half of the 9th century. On legend, the city was founded in 884 by the combatant of princes Askold and Dir by the name of Zhitomir, most likely, the Novorodian who has refused to serve the Prince Oleg. Other versions of the name of the city, on well-growing rye, Zito, are on the Slavic tribe inhabiting those places Zhitoki, the Drevlians entering into the breeding union. In 945 in this area the revolt recorded in the Ipatevsky Chronicle has broken up. In 1240 the city is for the first time mentioned in written sources. Stories of temporary years. When during the Tatar-Mongolian invasion has been taken and destroyed by Mongol Tatars. In 1287 the city has been again taken and devastated by Mongol Tatars. In 1320. According to other data, in 1324. Here the city was occupied by the Lithuanian Prince Zhitomir. In 1362 the city has been included in Grand Duchy of Lithuania. In 1399 is devastated by Tatars. Under the name of Zhitomir it is mentioned in Annalistic, the list of the Russian cities distant and near. The end of the 14th century. In 1444 the King of Poland Casimir Jagiellonczyk granted to Zhitomir the Magdeburg right and has constructed in it the small lock. The lock has not remained, but the place has received the name of Zamkova Hora. In 1467 the city has been again plundered and burned by Tatars. In 1540 the lock has been increased and strengthened on the project of the head Semyon Babinsky. After the Lublin Union of 1569 the city was part of the Polish kingdom. According to the inventory of 1572 in the town there were small lock, the palace of the head and 142 yards. In 1594-1596 residents participated in revolt Severina Nalivaiko. In 1596 the King Sigismund III of Vas has approved holding in Zhitomir 2 large annual fairs that promoted revival of trade and development of the city. There were regularly meetings of local representatives. Sejmik. In 1606 the city has been again plundered by Tatars. In 1648 Bogdan Khmelnytsky's Cossacks together with Tatars have taken the city, plundered and killed inhabitants. In the fire part of the city chronicle has burned down. Since 1582. The meeting of local representatives has condemned and has sentenced to death about 3,000 criminals. The sentence has been executed under the village of Karnia. In 1651 to the north of the city battle in which P. Khmelnytsky and won. Bogan's groups have broken the Polish army of the Prince Chetvertinsky has taken place. Since 1668 Zhitomir becomes the main town of the Kiev voivodeship. A joint meeting in Zhitomir on August 10, 1709 of representatives of land Zhitomir and Kiev. The resolution on the message of representatives to the Tsar Peter I with congratulation in victory over Swedes near Poltava and request of deduction of Cossacks from robbery of locals is accepted. In 1724 Jesuits have opened the monastery and school here. In the second half of the 18th century in Zhitomir there is large Jewish community. In 1765 there were 5 temples, 2 Orthodox Christians and 3 Catholic, 1 palace and 285 houses here. As a result of the Second Partition of Poland in 1793, Zhitomir was part of the Russian Empire and in 1795 became the district city of the Volensk Namestnichestvo. In 1798 Zhitomir became the center of Catholic diocese, and in 1799 the center of the Orthodox diocese. In 1804 Zhitomir became the provincial city of the Volensk province. Further, Zhitomir becomes known as shopping center. Here traded in the wood, the cattle, hop and other goods. In 1808 the Polish theater is founded. The main founder, Latocki. After the end of fighting of Patriotic War of 1812 in February 1813 the military hospital has been open. In 1823-1825 in Zhitomir members of Society of the Connected Slavs and the Southern Society of Decembrists acted. In 1837 at the Russian cemetery at the expense of the Princess Olga Potyomkina St. Lucas Church has been constructed. On January 8, 1838 in the city the edition of the Volenskaya Gubernskaya Vedomosti newspaper has begun. In 1896 through Zhitomir the narrow gauge railway has been paved, and at the end of the 19th century the city quickly develops as the shopping and industrial center. According to data of the first population census of the Russian Empire in February 1897 65895 people lived in the city. 30572 Jews, 16944 Russians, 9152 Malaros, 7464 Poles, 677 Germans. In 1899 in Zhitomir the movement of the tram has begun. In 1903 in Zhitomir there were 2 groups of the Iskrovsky direction. Railroad workers and printers. During the Revolution of 1905 Zhitomir became one of the centers of revolutionary movement. There took place strikes and demonstrations. In January 1905 the general strike and meetings has taken place. The lockout of printers continued from February 1 to April 9, 1905. The general May Day strike has begun on May 18, 1905. On October 14, 15, 1905 Zhitomir participated in the All-Russian political strike. On December 12, 1905 in December political strike. Working teams have been created. On April 23, 1905 the Jewish disorder took place. In 1913 the population of the city made 90.7 thousand people. After the February Revolution on March 28, 1917 in the city the edition of the daily newspaper Labor Volania has begun. In July 1917 on the basis of City Labor Union of Metal Workers the Zhitomir Organization of Erzurp B, which since June 27, 1917 has begun the edition of the Rabaki Golos newspaper has been created. 1918-1941. After the October Revolution the fraction of Erzurp B has got support of most of deputies in the Zhitomir Council of Working and Soldiers Deputies, and on January 8, 9, 21-22. 1918 in Zhitomir the Soviet power has been established, but on February 24, 1918 the city has been occupied by the German troops according to the Brest World between UN and the Central Powers. Further, in 1918 in Zhitomir several weeks worked public authorities of the Ukrainian People's Republic, and since April 29, on December 14, 1918, public authorities of the Ukrainian Power. In the city there was management of the first Volinsk body of the Ukrainian Power. Nevertheless, the communistic underground organization which has prepared armed revolt against the Directory which continued from January 4 to January 7, 1919 continued to work in the city, but it has been suppressed. On April 12, 1919 during Berdychevsko-Korostensky offensive operation the city was occupied by the parts of PK which have left Zhitomir in August 1919. On September 18, 1919 the 44th Rifle Division and parts of the southern group of the 12th Army of Roka have occupied with the joint attack Zhitomir. Further parts of the 12th Army of Roka have occupied defense near Zhitomir. During the Soviet-Polish War on April 26, 1920 the city was occupied by the Polish troops, but in the conditions of occupation the Soviet underground workers and guerrillas continued to act in the back of the Polish troops in Zhitomir. On June 7, 1920 Zhitomir was occupied by the 4th Cavalry Division of the 1st Cavalry of PK. Further, in 1920 Zhitomir became the place of dislocation of the 30th Boundary Crew which problem was protection of border with the Poland. In 1922-1939 in the city was the 44th Kiev Article to the 8th Rifle Corps. In 1925 Zhitomir became the administrative center of the Zhitomir district of Kiev region. From October 1925 to September 16, 1939 in the city there was management of the 8th Rifle Corps. During industrialization of the 1930th years development of the industry begins. In the early 30s the city was the center of the woodworking, furniture, shoe and wine producing industry. 23 qualification industrial institutions at which 980 workers worked here, and also there were 59 handicraftsmen and handicraftsmen. Also in the city the power plant, water supply system, 2 institutes, 9 technical schools, 2 professional schools, 3 FU, 17 courses, 27 schools, theater, the central library and 11 clubs worked. From 1935 to September 16, 1939 in the city there was management of the 2nd Cavalry Corps of the Kiev Military District. In September-October 1939 the body participated in the Polish campaign of Roka to east regions of Poland, the western Ukraine as a part of Woloczyński Army Group. In September 1937 Zhitomir became the center of the Zhitomir region. From July 26, 1938 to September 16, 1939 in the city there was management of the Zhitomir Army Group of the Kiev Special Military District. On September 16, 1939 management of the Zhitomir Army Group has been renamed into management of Sheptovsky Army Group, which has decreased from the city and was part of the Ukrainian front. In 1939 the population of the city made 95,000 people. The industry before war was underdeveloped, only a few small enterprises. Skinnery, the nail-making plant, ironworks, factory of bent furniture, tobacco factory and factory on production of shoe blocks worked. After the beginning of the Great Patriotic War, on July 4, 1941 in the city there was management of the Southwest Front. On July 9, 1941 Zhitomir has been occupied by the coming German troops. During occupation the Underground Regional Committee of R.B. worked in the city in July 1942 2 underground city town committees. Secretaries G.M. Wyszymski and Anno Domini Borody, who in April 1943 have integrated with Regional Committee in the Uniform Underground Organization have been created. On November 12, 1943, during the Kiev operation, the city has been freed by the Soviet troops of the First Ukrainian Front. The order of the rate of the Supreme Commander of November 13, 1943 of Connection and Part, caused a stir in fights for release of the city of Zhitomir, have received the name Zhitomir. Has been thanked the troops participating in liberation of Zhitomir officially, and in Moscow the salute by 20 artillery volleys from 224 tools is given. The German troops have turned into counterattack and on November 20, 1943 again have occupied the city. On December 31, 1943, during Zhitomir and Berdichevsky Operation, Zhitomir was freed again by troops of the First Ukrainian Front under command of the General A.D. Chernyakhovsky. In Moscow the salute has been given by 20 artillery volleys. During fighting of the Great Patriotic War and the German occupation, the city has been seriously destroyed, but in post-war time is built up. In 1955-1956 gasification of the city has begun. In 1962 the paper mill has been put into operation and there has begun work the city trolleybus. As of the beginning of 1980, the plant of automatic machines, the electromarital plant, the plant of auto parts, the Promavtomatika plant, the mechanical plant, the plant of household appliances, the repair plant, the plant of chemical fiber, flax processing business, hosiery factory, Komsomolskaya Pravda, fur factory, factory of non-woven fabrics, sewing integration, shoe association, confectionery, meat processing plant. The dairy plant, integration of the canning, baking and beer and soft drinks industry, furniture plant, mirror factory, factory of musical instruments, factory of toys and souvenir products, house building plant, the plant of construction metalwork, the association, Zhitomir Sabetin, Zhitomir Stromateriali, etc. The enterprises and also 40 comprehensive schools, 5 music schools, 1 art school, 10 special schools, 10 specialized secondary educational institutions, 13 technical training colleges, 2 higher education institutions, 17 libraries, 9 movie theaters, 23 clubs, musical and drama theater, puppet theater, museum of local law and 2 of its branches. Memorial House Museum of S.P. Korolev and Literary and Memorial House Museum of 5. G. Korolenko. The Palace of Pioneers, the regional stations of young technicians and young naturalists, the excursion and tourist station, 2 children's sports schools and also left 2 regional newspapers worked here. In 1984 Zhitomir has been awarded the Order de Labor Red Banner. In January 1989 the population was 292,097 people, in 1991 298,000 people. To the middle of the 1990th Sokolovsky granite pit acted in the city, further it has been closed and flooded. Since 1999 the Zhitomir Sacred and Anastasievsky Stavropigilny Convent, the Franciscan monastery works at Street. Ion's Temple with Dukli here. Physiographic characteristic. This city is located among unique natural landscapes. From all directions the city is surrounded by the ancient woods, through it the rivers the Black Grouse, Kamenka, Forest, Kroshenka, Pugitinka flow. In the city several squares. In the suburbs, on coast of the Teterevsky water reservoir, the hydropark is located. In the adjoining green space sanatoria are placed. Economy. Zhitomir, important economic and scientific and technological center of the region. At the enterprises of the city release the glass, metalwork, electronic devices, LED screens, confectionery, fabrics, furniture, footwear, auto parts. Also processing of natural stone. Gabbro, labradorite, different types of granite is developed. Railway station. Zhitomir, the large transport hub of Ukraine. This city since ancient times got in the important way from Kiev on the west Brest-Litovsk. Now it is the road of the international M-06E value 40 Kiev SV. Also from the city roads begin. M-21E 583 Zhitomir, Mogilev-Podolsk. Through Vinnytsia. N-03 Zhitomir, Chernivtsi. Through Khmelnytskyi. R-18 Zhitomir, Stavish. Through Skvyra. R-28 Zhitomir, the checkpoint through the Ukrainian-Belarusian border of Vystupovichi. Through Korosten to Mazer and Minsk. The railroads connect Zhitomir to Kazatin. Through Berdichav. Korostenem, Korostisha, Novograd-Volynski and Fastovim. From Zhitomir to these cities the diesel train. To Korostishev only from April to October. Also electric trains. To Fastov. Follow suburban. In 2011 electrification of the site Fastov, Zhitomir is carried out. Zhitomir is approximately in 131 km. Physically, on the highway -140 km, on railway -165 km. From Kiev. Through railway station Zhitomir passenger trains go. Chisinau Street. Petersburg. All the year round daily. With this train also every 2 days the trailer coaches Chisinau Minsk go. Zhitomir Odessa. Summer of times in 2 days. Lviv Bakhmut. All the year round daily. Also there is diesel, superliner trains Zhitomir Korosten Zhitomir, Vinnytsia Korosten Vinnytsia and Korosten Kazatin. The international airport Zhitomir worked in the city. Start in 2022 of intercity through Zhitomir is planned. There are 3 bus stations, 15 bridges and traffic intersections are built on the rivers of the city and highways. 30 km circumurban road around Big Zhitomir. The suspension bridge through Titarev in the Park of Gagarin is kept by the stay ropes thrown through 2 70-meter pylons over the Black Grouse at the height of 38 meters. From the bridge the wonderful view of slopes of small rivers, ancient areas the cities of Malivanka, Korbutovka and also 37-meter monument of Slava opens. Now the bridge is actively used for upshipping. Ancient part of Zhitomir is located on 3 rocky hills over the Kamenka River. On the mountains Okrimidy, Castle and Petrovsky. The old city is surrounded by new residential districts which names are borrowed from the former suburban villages or reflect old professions of these places. Bulgania invention Melniki. Malikov. Kroshen, Levkok, Marianov, Smoke, Kom, Policia, Korbutovka, Malyavanka, Zakamenka, Slingshot, Rudnia, resident of Smolensk, East. Field. Stanishovsky Porub, Hinchenka. Powerful tournament. In Zhitomir there are several big stadiums. Central Stadium Policia Spartak Air. Zhitomir Agrotechnical College. Also there are a lot of football fields and sports grounds. Culture. Life and activity of many famous scientists and culture are connected with the city. In Zhitomir writers Hein Nachman Bialik and Vladimir Korolenko, the academician S.P. Korolev, the botanist 5. M. Archuvsky, military leaders Ya. B. Imarnik and Bayu. 1. Kolyada, historians B. A. Krugliak and A. A. Skalkovsky, the Orientalist T. A. Shumovsky, artists Erasmus Fabiansky and D. P. Sternberg, the mathematician Igor Shafrovich, the composer and the pianist I. Yao. Fedorevsky, Boris Lyatoshinsky, the pianist Svetoslav Richter were born. Sasha Chiorny has published the first feuilleton in the Zhitomir newspaper. In Zhitomir there are local history museum, art gallery, the Museum of the Nature, the Literary and Memorial Museum of 5. G. Korolenko, the Museum of Astronautics of Sergei Pavlovich Korolev and Memorial House Museum of S.P. Korolev, the Literary Museum of Zhytomyr and the Museum of History of Fire Protection. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.